I think also a lot of people forget you have a whole ass chart. So all of these people that are fire signs, they could very well have earth signs in their chart. Fire and earth are right next to each other, right? So you Virgos could have Leo placements, you Capricorns could have Sagittarius placements, you Tauruses could have Aries placements, and a lot of you do. What's good, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the podcast, welcome back to Yap Therapy. How you doing today? I hope you're having a fabulous day. I just found out that November 18th, which has already passed, is National Married to a Scorpio Support Day. You can Google it. You can go on Google and see that I am not lying. I think that's hilarious. And I feel like it's also rude, because why do you need support? Why do you need support? Let's be honest here. What are you trying to say? I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe they took a poll and they decided, listen, if you're married to a Scorpio, that's when you need the most support. But I mean, I'm not even going to lie. I know that being with a Scorpio placement is not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak. If you're with a Scorpio, you probably have experienced the high highs and the low lows. And depending on where they are in their healing journey, they don't expect you to be in that emotional state with them. It's nice, I feel like, for your partner to obviously validate your feelings and care about your feelings. If you're having a bad day, they should care at the bare minimum. But it is not up to them to be in those feelings with you all the time and be on that roller coaster ride with you. You know what I mean? I feel like with water sign placements, actually, we can sometimes take it personally when people aren't willing to feel that feeling with us. And it's just not up to other people to validate your feelings by feeling the feeling. They can validate your feelings and still be looking at your situation from a bird's eye view, and it's like that thing where it's like, if you're having a bad day, now if someone walks in, you can't help but be miserable, right? Misery loves company is the saying. But that person should have a good boundary to be like, okay, you're having a bad day, but I'm going to step away. Let me know, if you need me, I'm going to give you your space. And you shouldn't be mad at them for doing that either, because it is up to you and you only. Your emotions are yours. Your feelings are yours. You need to figure that shit out. Granted, we're not talking about if you guys are having a problem together, then your feelings should matter to them and they need to be in that space with you to understand it. But I'm saying, if you separately have an off day, something happened at work, something happened with a friend, family, whatever, and you're feeling a negative feeling, whether it's anger or sadness or whatever, you can't expect your partner to be having that feeling with you, because it's just not fair, because then, when do you get a break? You're having an off day. Okay, those are 2 days out of the week. And then your partner has an off day 3 days out of the week. So that means 5 days out of the week, you have to have an off day. In general, we as people need to be more honest with ourselves and keep your expectations manageable. Manage your expectations and don't expect, your partner to be on that same level with you. Again, validate each other's feelings, but don't expect them to be as mad as you or sad as you right now. You kind of want them. You do want them to be supporting you. And if they're always, angry as you are, which one of you is going to ground the other? One of you always needs to be grounding the other. And that's the best part about any sort of relationship. Friendship too, is that they're hopefully there when you're low, when you're feeling low, and when you're feeling high and they're low, you get to be there for them. It's that balance. Whereas if you're both just always freaking out for the other, there is no sense of logic in terms of how are we going to fix this issue for you? You want the other person to be operating from a logical perspective, so then you can actually think about the facts and they can actually help you fix this problem. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I think there's a thing where like you could be overly logical too. So like the other end of the spectrum is like earth signs, you know? So water signs being hyper emotional and earth signs being super logical. They're the opposite signs, right? They're opposite signs from each other. And I feel like if you're overly logical when it comes to your partner's problems, they can very much feel like they're not heard in this relationship. It's really, really easy to validate people's feelings. I don't know why it's so hard for some people to do it. Like, all you have to do is literally say, I totally understand. You can feel that way. You know what I mean? No one can take away your experience, you know, and I'm sorry that this happened. Like, all you have to do is just validate people, you know, and I think sometimes when you're overly logical, you're giving the solutions too fast. Or maybe you're playing devil's advocate. You're like, oh, I'm sure they didn't mean it that way. Or, oh, you know, they're probably having a bad day, whatever. Like, you're giving all of these, like, yeah, sure, logical responses to their feeling. But in that moment in time, they don't need the facts. They kind of just want to be validated. And I think the perfect equation is to validate, let it simmer, and then ask, did you want me to come up with a solution? Or do you want me to give you your space? You know, do you want me to just sit here with you in silence? Like, there's so many ways you can go about helping your friends and your partner out without taking their experience away and shoving solutions their way. You know, I think sometimes, like I said, earth signs can fall victim to that mindset of, well, I'm helping you, you know? I'm helping you by telling you what I would do and what you should do and what it would make sense to do. And I think while that's nice because you're very solution-oriented, earth signs, I think sometimes people just want to feel safe in their feelings. You know, the solutions can come at a later time, but at first I think people want to be validated so they feel safe. You know, I think that's like the first step in like healing anything. I mean, I know it is sitting in that feeling, experiencing that feeling. Because if you try and just shove that feeling away and rationalize the feeling instead of feeling it, you're kind of skipping a step. So now the foundation of this healing journey is wobbly, you know? The first step should always, always be you fully feeling it. Because that's when you truly understand it, understand why this bothered you, you know? Whereas if you're just rationalizing it away and you're telling yourself, oh, like, maybe I'm doing too much, or like, oh, it shouldn't matter that much. Ooh, I'm not gonna let people know that this bothered me that much. All of those are ways in which you're invalidating your own feelings and trying not to sit in your feelings. You know, even with jealousy, one of the most shameful emotions, right? Like when people feel jealous, no one wants to say that they feel jealous. You know, no one wants to admit that because, I don't know, it's like icky, right? But really, like I always say this, being jealous just means that someone has something that you want. Like you want that for yourself. Now, if you're thinking you want that exact thing and you're going to take it from them, that's how jealous you are. That's weird. But like, if you really are logical about it, you're thinking, okay, so like I'm jealous of this person for this thing. That probably means that maybe I want that thing, you know? That's all you're telling yourself. So I think even when it comes to jealousy and emotion that a lot of people are ashamed with, like we should just admit it. Like if you're admitting these negative feelings, then you get to actually sit in it, process it, let it go, and then move on, you know? But I think a lot of people are ready to just kind of step over that initial step, which is actually feeling things. And they go straight to logic. And, you know, our brain is great for a lot of things. It helps keep us safe. It helps organize our thoughts. But when it comes to feelings, you know, when it comes to emotional moments, when it comes to you being triggered, you have to go back to the heart. You have to sit with the feeling, you know, because even if the situation is done, that doesn't mean right when the situation is done, now your heart stops feeling it. You know, like if you really think about like a fight happening or you being triggered, you know, something going on, as soon as that fight ends or you being in that room with people that triggered you ends, that doesn't mean that right at that moment your heart can also shut off. You know what I mean? Like your heart is still going to be feeling these negative feelings of being triggered, of being anxious after a fight, whatever, being sad, being angry. Your heart is not done processing that. But if you start to all of a sudden be logical about it and be like, oh, I shouldn't feel that way, it's going to make your heart feel weird because you're suddenly trying to close it off from feeling these feelings, but you're not closing it all the way off because it's not possible unless you feel all these feelings. But if you close that door, right after you get into a fight, right after you get triggered, then you're not really allowing all your feelings to flow through you. That's also how your chakras can get blocked. Your chakras are blocked when there is an energy block there, right? So if you are not allowing yourself to feel certain feelings, all because your brain is telling you, oh no, don't feel that. That's weird. Like you feeling that is weird. Why is that still bothering you? You should be ashamed by the fact that this is still bothering you. You're invalidating all your feelings, right? So your heart needs to have the ability to feel all the things. Otherwise, there will be a block. And you'll also have all this resentment. That's where resentment plays in. You can have resentment towards yourself because you lied to yourself about how much something bothered you. You can have resentment towards other people. Because, you just did such a good job at pretending you're fine, but now you're mad that they couldn't read through that. I think a lot of people deal with that in relationships, as you have done such a good job of like pretending you're fine and not talking about what bothers you, and you've just become such a good actress and an actor. So the person that you're, involved with never really knows that you're actually not fine and that this did bother you. But how are they supposed to read your mind? We create a lot of problems for ourselves as people, all in the name of coming off as like aloof or chill or whatever. We assume if I let shit go, it's going to simplify my life. But how much shit are you letting go? And what type of shit are you letting go? Like there are issues in relationships and friendships you should not let go. If something is truly bothering you, you should talk about it. And you should consistently talk about it until you figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, maybe you shouldn't be friends. Maybe you shouldn't be in that relationship, So there's a fine line, I feel like, between picking your battles, but also expressing yourself instead of letting resentment build. So yeah, that wasn't really meant to be the difference between earth and water energy. I think obviously anyone of any sign can deal with these issues, but thinking about water signs and earth signs, I thought that was so fascinating, because when I think about water signs, I think of people that are really good at validating other people emotionally and thinking about things from an emotional perspective, obviously, because we're water signs and we can't help that. And then, our opposite signs, which are the earth signs, are the ones that are very much logical. And I think when it comes to solving any type of problem, it's probably good to infuse both of those things. Does it feel right? And does it make sense? Okay, no, I have to actually vent a little bit about okay, so I posted a clip about fire and earth signs on TikTok. It was from the last podcast, and I thought it was so funny. It was talking about essentially how fire signs, they get frustrated when fighting with earth signs, because earth signs don't give them the energy that they're looking for. Like fire signs want that passion, they want to argue, and earth signs usually, they don't give the energy back, and they're really good at maintaining their composure, right? Which anyone who knows astrology knows that makes sense. Like the archetype of fire signs versus earth signs, it makes sense that the fire signs are rowdy and they want to get a reaction out of you, and earth signs are more mellow and keeping their calm before they actually choose to blow up. Like that makes sense, right? And, most people agreed, but there were so many fire signs that were not having it. Like, they were not having it. People were like, actually, it's the opposite for me. I am so calm. I believe you. And, I have to pick my battles. And I think anyone who posts anything astrology related on the internet, literally, knows that you cannot make everyone happy. If it doesn't resonate, move on. There's plenty of other videos and other creators or whatever, or make your own. It's funny because I've talked to other, astrologers or anyone who posts anything spirituality related online, there's always comments that are like, well, actually, that doesn't really resonate for me, because for me, it's like, okay, it's totally fine. And you get to have that experience. But I just thought it was so funny because there was definitely some fire signs under that video that were booty tickled, but it is what it is. You can't make everyone happy. And I think also a lot of people forget you have a whole ass chart. So all of these people that are fire signs, they could very well have earth signs in their chart. Fire and earth are right next to each other, right? So you Virgos could have Leo placements. You Capricorns could have Sagittarius placements. You Tauruses could have Aries placements. And a lot of you do. So that's why I always try to mention it's about the archetype. It's about the signs archetype. When I'm talking about these signs, I'm talking about the archetype of these signs. So it's not always going to resonate, and that's totally, totally, totally fine. I saw this cute ass meme on Instagram. I'll post it right here. For the audio listeners, the post basically says, I'm a healer, but don't push me. And it's this little kid like flipping you off, and it's fucking amazing. And I love this post because, listen, I'm a spiritual lover girl, but I still got that dog in me, And I think people forget that about anyone that's spiritual. Actually, now I'm thinking about like the toxic version of it. And I'm talking about, those people that are like super religious and like they have like a certain like proverb like in their like Instagram bio. And they're always the ones that are like posting like the meanest comments ever. Like, I thought that's funny because like, listen, they're religious, but they're literally the biggest assholes you'll ever meet. And I think that's just funny because we should always just stop assuming shit about people. Like, if someone is spiritual, that doesn't mean that they're weak or that they're too nice, and that because they're on this spiritual journey, they can never put someone in their place. And I'm a firm believer also in expressing your anger, because people sometimes need to be reminded of who they're messing with. And also, you need to remind yourself who you are. Sometimes when you're just like killing with kindness like every single day, like 365 days per year, you're just like killing them with kindness. Like, girl, aren't you tired of killing them with kindness? Don't you want to like slap them to show them who you are? And I don't even mean physically slap, but like verbally. You know what I mean? Like, people just need to be reminded. And I think one of the funnest parts of your self-confidence and spiritual journey is when you become obsessed with like standing up for yourself. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I personally think when you go from being maybe shy or insecure or not as confident, you typically don't stand up for yourself, right? Like, you have a hard time standing up for yourself. And you'd rather just be quiet. And when you're being quiet, that's when you can get messed with, or people can just get away with saying disrespectful ass shit to you. But then when you start building that confidence, and sometimes you're faking it till you make it too, but you're building that confidence, you're always hyper aware of someone slighting you or, catching a stray. And sometimes it's not even happening, but because now you're on this like confidence journey and you're really good at like setting boundaries, you're almost like waiting for someone to try you. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely felt that way in like my 12th house perfection year. I definitely was like, oh, like, people want to try me. Like, I almost was like looking for a fight because I felt like I was just so good at standing up for myself now that if anyone even slightly said something I didn't like, I feel like it was my whole life purpose to let them know that I love arguing and I'm really good at it. And now you've picked a fight with the wrong one. You know what I mean? And it's really fun, I feel like, when you get there. But then when you get there, after a while, you realize you kind of balance it out. You're like, okay, I don't need to pick a fight with everyone. I think I've proven to myself and the world that push comes to shove, I know how to stand up for myself. So yeah, I feel like if you're in any sort of spiritual journey and you're thinking you need to like tone yourself down or tone down your self-expression, or you need to keep it cute all the time, no, I'm here to tell you no. Like, you could still be your crazy ass self and be on a spiritual journey and be more in tune with the universe. Like, being a spiritual person doesn't mean that you are like watering yourself down to be digestible for the people around you because now, you know the ways of the universe, like that doesn't mean that. Sometimes you learn more actually and you get more mad. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the more I learn, the more angry I become sometimes because I understand the world and I get mad at the way that it works. You know, life really is unfair. And I think that is what the spiritual journey is about, is understanding how fucked up this world is and still finding ways to help yourself, help your community after you help yourself, you know, and still finding ways to find those moments of joy in this crazy, crazy world. Because I don't think this world will ever be perfect. And as cheesy as this is going to sound, I think the whole journey is, you know, finding yourself and making sure that you're okay no matter what's happening externally, right? Like when you win that war internally and when you have this sort of calmness about you 90% of the time, because we're always going to have a little bit of crazy, you are not affected as much by what's happening externally. And that's why I say first yourself, because if you can figure out that inner calm for yourself, then the next step is helping out people around you and then helping out your community. That's how you make the biggest difference in this world. And that's what I've been learning, is that you can be so mad at the world and how it's unfair, but ultimately the change that is going to have the biggest impact is the change that you make in yourself. And then when you're able to use your healing abilities, whatever you're good at, you know, we all have this thing, whatever you're good at, helping yourself and then using that skill to help other people in your community, because that is when you're going to make the biggest difference. Unless you're like a millionaire, billionaire, then you can really make a difference, you know, in the world. But if you're not there yet, you can still make a difference. Okay, so I love Tiffany Pollard. Like, that's my girl. You guys remember her from I Love New York, but also she's been in like Celebrity Big Brother UK. She's been in a lot of other reality shows. Like, she is just an icon. She is a reality TV icon, like one of the best to ever do it. And my thing is like, when you are someone that like blew up like 20 years ago, whatever, especially with like reality TV or whatever, you have to have a personality to still be in the media and to still be relevant, you know? And she's still very much relevant. I think she's in House of Villains season 2. She was in season 1 and in season 2. She is just so iconic. And the reason I love her is because of her reads. The way that she reads people, just her reactions to everything. She just has so many great one-liners, and I love her also because she's a Capricorn with a Gemini moon. And y'all know I'm a Gemini moon. So when I learned she was a Gemini moon, I was like, yes, yes. And Capricorn, like Capricorns are ruthless with the way that they read people because it's so dry and like they could just end you with 2 words. But because she also has this Gemini moon, like Gemini moons are really, really good at using their words to embarrass you. You know what I mean? Using their words to be also very witty in the way that they embarrass you. That's why I think they have great one-liners. Look at Gemini moons in the media. They definitely are known for being witty and funny. And I was like, okay, let's look at some Gemini moon celebrities. Barack Obama. That is so funny. That man really is like giddy. You know what I mean? Like, he definitely has a personality on him. And people enjoy what he has to say, you know? If it's one thing with Gemini moons, we are entertaining, okay? And we don't have any problems, like, using our pain to make people laugh. Like, actually, that is probably how we are able to heal ourselves, is laughing and making jokes. So if I'm making a joke about my trauma, laugh with me here. Like, don't be weird. Don't get all serious. No, we don't need to like sit down and think about it. Like, just laugh. Ha ha, funny. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. No, we don't need to go back. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Vladimir Putin is also oh my God. Yeah, we don't like that. Also, he is not a man of many words, right? Like, I don't think I've ever heard him speak, and not that I can speak Russian, but I still want to know, like, I feel like he does not give Gemini moon energy. Like, where's the joy, sir? Where's the haha? You know, like, he just looks so serious. Actually, it makes sense why he looks so serious. He is a Scorpio rising. Yep, that makes sense. So serious. Jennifer Lawrence is a Gemini moon. Oh, she is so funny. And I remember actually when she's still obviously an A-lister, but when she was like blowing up, I think a lot of people enjoyed her personality because there was something so relatable about her. Like whenever she had these interviews, like she just seemed like a regular girl next door. Like her jokes were just always hitting just right. She knows how to make people feel comfortable. I feel like that's how I've seen her in the way that she communicates whenever she's in any sort of interview or with fans or whatever. Like she just seems like she can get along with everyone. She's a jokester. And I've noticed that with Gemini moons is like, yes, we're jokesters, but we're also really good at making people feel comfortable when we're joking around with them. Your moon sign is what makes you feel safe, right? Like it's your inner world. And I think when you're a Gemini moon, you're really good at using your words to make people feel comfortable, right? Jim Carrey is a Gemini moon. Oh my God, all of these like jokester comedians, it makes so much sense. Jim Carrey is also a Capricorn sun. So oh my God, Tiffany Pollard and Jim Carrey have the same sun and moon. And in some weird way, that makes so much sense. And that feels right for me, you know? And I love that Jim Carrey is a Gemini moon. And he is honestly one of my favorite comedians. I think he truly understands timing. His facial expressions are just the best. Like Bruce Almighty is one of my favorite movies in the whole wide world. Like I love that movie. I live, laugh, love that movie so much. Like I said, his comedic timing is just perfection. And I just love hearing him speak. Like I love hearing him talk. Maybe that has to do, with his Gemini moon. I don't know what it is. When you find people in the world with your same moon sign, like there's just a certain comfort that they give you. And you just feel seen by them, you know? I feel that way about people that have the same Venus, moon, and rising sign as me. Like those are the people that I'm like, wow. Like I understand why you are the way that you are. A lot of Gemini moon celebs, and also one of my favorite ones is also 50 Cent. Like I already talked about this on this channel. I love how much 50 Cent does not give a fuck. Like he be exposing his fellow celebrities left and right, and he is like truly a comedian when it comes to the shit that he posts. Like he does not give a fuck. And I've noticed that with Gemini moons. Like we don't feel the need to like keep it cute when we're beefing with someone. Like we actually want the world to be laughing with us, and we're gonna make a joke to laugh at you, you know? That's how we get our lick back. Us Gemini moons through jokes. The reason I even brought Tiffany Pollard up is because one of her old clips resurfaced on TikTok of the time she like read the fuck out of somebody. Yeah, no topic is left untouched when it comes to Gemini placements reading you. You know, Gemini wants that shock value. Gemini wants to use the information that they've learned about you and throw it back in your face when they're beefing with you, you know? It's funny because, you know, they're both ruled by Mercury, Virgo and Gemini. And Virgos are very detail-oriented and they know exactly what to say to hurt you if they're fighting with you. But Geminis, they kind of want the works. Like Gemini has 3 pieces of information about you that they know hurts you, and somehow they're going to get it all out there. They're going to do it quickly. You know, Gemini is the type to like read you, and afterwards you're like, wait a minute. And then it starts coming to you like what they actually said. Because at first you're like, haha, because they're like laughing. And then later you're like, wait, that was fucked up. Oh my God, you know, you'll think about it. And because you didn't bring it up right when it happened, it's weird to bring it up later. I always say this, you're always going to regret not having a response, you know? So when it comes to a Gemini placement, arguing with you, because they're so fast, that mercurial energy is so fast that you're going to have a hard time keeping up. And then afterwards, because they laughed with you afterwards, you're like, oh, we're fine. But then later you're going to think about it and you're like, wait a minute. They just ran laps around me when it came to that argument. I don't know if you guys saw that Martha Stewart documentary that came out. And to be fully transparent, I haven't watched the whole thing. I've just seen clips of it on TikTok. And sometimes the clips on TikTok is exactly what you needed. It's like the SparkNote version of it, the things that really matter. And also, I think we all have really short attention spans. And sometimes it's more digestible when you see little clips. Anyway, it's hilarious. And listen, Martha Stewart, you could say whatever you want about her, but she is a powerhouse. You know, she's a successful ass woman, and, you know, she can back her own shit up. But there were clips in this documentary that were just so funny. Like when it came to her you know, her idea of relationships, how she feels about romance, how she feels about wanting a romantic relationship. And she was just being so funny. And they literally basically asked her in one of the questions, oh, have you ever had like a relationship where you talked about feelings? And she's like, no, I don't care. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, what is Charles thinking right this second? Verbatim, she said this. And it was so funny. Like, she said it with a stone cold face. And I was like, oh my God, like, she does not give a fuck. Like, she is here to make some money, be filthy rich, maybe have a boy toy here or there, but she really doesn't give a fuck. And I'm like, all right, what is this woman's chart? So, you know, I looked it up. She is a Leo with a Sagittarius moon and a Scorpio rising. Isn't that freaking crazy? She also has a Mercury in Cancer, Virgo Venus, and Aries Mars. Actually, it's so funny that she has a Mercury in Cancer, a Mercury sign that is all about being transparent with your feelings and being all lovey-dovey. But she talks about how she's never really had a relationship where she cares to talk about her feelings. That is fascinating, but it makes so much sense when you look at her sun and moon. Obviously, fire signs, Leo and Sagittarius, they crave relationships too, but I think it's interesting that she, as a fire dominant person, doesn't really care because her Mars is also in Aries. Oh, she has that. Ooh, fire grand trine. It's amazing. That's probably why she's so successful and is a powerhouse. That's amazing. When you think about fire sign placements, they are hyper independent. You know, they're all about getting their bag. They're all about doing the things that make them feel good. I think a lot of fire sign women, especially, they want to be independent. They want to do their own thing, and they want to have this sense of like, I did this all by myself. Like, I don't need you. That fire sign energy is like that, you know? And I think that's great. There's nothing wrong with either side. I don't give a fuck if you want to be a housewife and have your freaking husband's black card. And I don't even care if you want to make your own money and you don't need no man. Whatever makes you happy. Literally. I am in favor of that. But I do think it's interesting that she has that Leo sun and that Sagittarius moon. And she's very much like, I don't care about your feelings. Like, I'm not here to discuss feelings. Fire signs don't always feel the need to be about that lovey-dovey life. You know what I mean? But Leo suns do. Leo suns enjoy that. But I do think because she has that Sagittarius moon, definitely affects her ability to want or sustain a long-term relationship. Again, that's not to say that Sagittarius moons can't hold relationships. They very much can. But I will say it is not something that they feel the most comfortable with. You know, Sagittarius moons can sometimes be cold when it comes to romantic relationships. And, you know, Sagittarius moons just feel the most comfortable when they have personal freedom. You know, they need to have this independent side to themselves, and they need to be in relationships where that independence is respected. And that's why, you know, sometimes people say Sag energy doesn't do well with monogamy because Sagittarius wants to experience different things at all times. Again, that doesn't mean if you have a Sagittarius moon, you can't be in a monogamous relationship. But what I am saying is that they are not always going to feel comfortable with the typical cookie cutter relationship type, you know? So it makes sense why Miss Martha over here doesn't really give a fuck about her relationships, including lots of emotions and feelings, you know? Also, her Venus is in Virgo. So if you haven't watched the Venus sign series, I have done Venus in Virgo. Really good series, by the way. And Virgo Venuses can be very particular with what they're looking for in a relationship. They have a lot of rules, usually, about what they want. I'm here for having standards, but sometimes you need to be a little bit more open-minded, Virgo Venus. So that is another thing that maybe she has going against her. Maybe she doesn't give a fuck, so it's not going against her. But when it comes to relationships and relationships that include heavy emotions, I think Virgo Venuses, they just want it to make sense. They want you to meet their criteria, and as long as that happens, this relationship can work. You know, they're not always looking for that, like, lovey-dovey, Bonnie and Clyde, intense type of love. They just want it to make sense and for it to work and for you guys to fit into each other's lives like perfect puzzle pieces, you know? Whereas when you are more of the lovey-dovey type, you could literally be two different puzzle pieces from two different puzzles, and you'll be trying to make it fit all because you just have this feeling, you know, like you just saw them across the room and you like I fucked for like 2 seconds and you're like, no, like this is my person. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna make it work. This reminds me of my previous video, which was signs that are most likely to fall for people that they can't have. And you know, the water signs were at the top. And it makes sense. Like sometimes you just need to be honest with yourself about why you want something so bad. Like, yes, there's like a connection here, but chemistry doesn't always mean that it will like make sense in the long term. Like you can have chemistry with anything, you know? And also just going based off of the fact that it makes sense. Our families grew up together. We were always meant to be together. Like that doesn't always mean that it's your person either. So I think it's about having chemistry and for it to make sense on paper a little bit too. It's a combination of both. What I'm about to say is like a hot take, maybe not a hot take, but it's very much giving Pluto and Aquarius, and happy freaking Pluto and Aquarius. Like finally, goodbye, Pluto and Capricorn. Do you know how good it feels for my rising sign for Pluto to finally be out of my first house? Like, honestly, I am so tired of hyper obsessing over my identity, who I am, how I show up. Like, I'm tired of thinking about all that. And Pluto was sitting on my, ascendant. So all I was thinking about since 2008 when Pluto moved into Capricorn, I'm sure other fellow Capricorn risings get it, is, you're just focusing in on wherever Pluto is hitting in that area of your chart, right? So for me, it was my first house, which is like your personality, your identity, right? And thinking about all these things when it comes to Plutonian energy, it can be heavy and it can be a lot. So I'm very excited that Pluto is out of my first house. But yeah, what I'm about to say kind of fits into the fact that Pluto moved into Aquarius. Okay, one of the things I really, really hate is rule followers. Like, I don't know why. It pisses me off. Like, people that just, like, follow the rules 100% of the time, it bugs me. It really, really bugs me. And I just don't understand it. Listen, rules are good. Some rules are meant to be there, like, and we should follow them. But people that just never, ever question anything and never feel the need to break any rule, you bug me. You annoy me. And it's crazy because I'm a Capricorn rising, so we're supposed to like do everything by the book. And I'm usually like that. Trust when it matters, I'm like that. But I feel like when it comes to certain things in life, you should break the rules a little bit. Like I just can't be around people long term that don't ever think for themselves and have never broken a rule in their life. Also because I feel like you're closed-minded. I can't help but think if you're a rule follower and all you do is listen to what everyone says and do it exactly the way that they told you and do it exactly the way it's been done before you, I just feel like you're closed-minded and it's not fun talking to you. I think that's typically how I feel about people. And also I feel like I have to hold myself back, People that just follow the rules all the time, I feel like it's hard conversating with them because they always just think in one way, And if you choose to do things differently, they're the first ones to tell you, like, no, like, that's not how you should do it. This is how you should do it. This is how everyone has done it. Like, does it look like I give a fuck? Like, actually, does it look like I give a fuck? And they always feel the need to tell you that, And yeah, I just wanted to say how much I hate rule followers. And it makes sense because Aquarius energy, I feel like they're the biggest rule breakers in the zodiac. And I enjoy their energy. Sagittarius energy, too. They love to break rules. I respect that and I love it, and I love when people think differently, and I love when people take a risk and they break a rule. Just be creative, be creative, create your own rules, break some rules. Listen, if you're under 18 and you're watching this, don't break any rules. Always follow the directions of the adults around you. People over the age of 18, like, break a little rule here and there. Do things your own way. You don't always have to follow the directions in front of you. And I think we've been conditioned, obviously, in school to be perfect and to be rule followers and to take directions and, do what you need to do exactly the way that you're told to do it. And I think that's hindering our ability to be creative and our ability to think for ourselves. And I think every single person, if you have a task at hand, I think everyone can have a different way of reaching that solution. And I just don't think it makes sense for everyone to be doing things the same way. We're all such different people. Look at our charts. All of our charts are very, very different. It doesn't make sense for all of us to be doing things the same way. And I actually think it makes us less productive, you know? Someone doing something one way and doing it efficiently and fast, that's great. It may work for their personality type or their birth chart or their whatever. That doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Maybe you doing it the same way, it's going to take you longer to do it. You're going to be stressed while you're doing it, you know? So I think it's important to allow people to have the freedom to make their own rules and do things their own way. That doesn't mean that it's wrong. Like if we're all getting to that one solution together, why does it matter how we get there? You know, it does not matter how we get there, but I think it just goes to show when people are different, we view them as a threat. You know, and I don't know. I'm sure on some psychological level that was placed there, you know, for a reason, but I don't think it helps us all the time. I think if you look at someone doing things differently as you and you view them as a threat, maybe you don't like your own life. You know what I mean? Why does that bother you? Let them live. Let them do things their own way. You wanting a certain life, it shouldn't be dependent on if other people also want that life. Like you should want it enough for yourself. It shouldn't matter if other people want something different or they're doing things differently as you. Like that does not matter. It's not your business, you know, and you doing things your own way is also not other people's business. So if you want to become a rule breaker, if you want to do things differently, or you want to be a creative in a world that is forcing people to not be creative and you're tired of hustling for a company that you don't like, I believe in you. Do what you want to do. You know what I mean? Live your life, make yourself happy. And if other people have anything to say about it, ignore them. I know that's easier said than done, but other people's opinion of your life and how you're living your life and where you're going and what your goals are, it is none of their business. And if they're so obsessed with your life that all they want to do is talk about it, I mean, amazing. You're their muse. Like, take it as a compliment, but keep doing you. Keep living your life. Keep doing what makes you happy. Keep doing things the way you like to do them, because it's not anybody else's business but yours. And if you catch yourself making other people's lives your business, pick up a hobby, because you probably have too much time on your hands, okay? All right, you guys, that is the end of this podcast episode. I've really, really, really enjoyed sitting here. I mean, I enjoy sitting here all the time with you guys, but something about today just hit different. I love sitting on my cozy yellow couch and chatting with you guys. It's so, so fun. Comment about any of the topics I talked about. I love hearing what you guys have to say. It makes my day. It makes my weekend, because I usually read the comments right before the weekend. I love you guys so much. Don't forget to leave me a review. If you're an audio listener, leave me a 5-star review. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye, y'all.